I was like 9 years old when I started experimenting with drugs. The reason is because my life was so chaotic. Both my parents were drug addicts, and you know, I lived with my mom because they separated, and there was just constant, you know, violence and parties going on in my house all the time.
The first thing that comes to mind is that I'm at least a third-generation addict, and so even though, of course, as a little girl I didn't use, I watched my mother use, and so very early on learned the behavior of an addict.
At the age of 14, I started doing, after my parents' divorce, we started going downhill, and I started drinking alcohol and weed, and I carried on for my whole life, really.
I was in 5th grade. I was 11 when I started using meth, and all my family were addicts. You know, my mother, my father, all my aunts, all my uncles, everybody in my life as a child from, you know, 0 and up were all addicts.
When I was growing up, my mom was addicted to meth, and my dad was never around, and my mom was on drugs from the time I turned 3 months old until I was about 12.
I was the oldest daughter, and I was the oldest grandchild, and I was the kid who found her mother dead on the bathroom floor, or half dead on the bathroom floor.
So as a little girl, I started to become very angry inside, and I built up a lot of rage, you know. At first it started out as like scared and confused, and before I even knew it, I was in this rage, this anger, because I didn't understand. I went to school and saw all my friends, they had these functional lives. Their parents were at the field trips, and I didn't have that.
In the meantime, you know, I was like having people in and out of my dad's house before we got taken all the time, and you know, staying at our house all the time, and I got molested and stuff like that. And so I never pressed charges because I was too scared. My dad was too loaded, so nothing ever happened about it.
At the age of 18, my mom, she took her life, and sent me down a bad road where I just didn't care for life anymore. At that age, I started using methamphetamines, and I've been a meth addict ever since.
When I started using, I just always needed more to keep that feeling going, or to not feel at all. And so I went from being a straight A student in high school to dropping out and basically living on the streets, and being an IV drug user by the time I was 15.
My mom dropped me off at school when I was in the 7th grade, and I knew she had court, but I never knew there was a possibility that I wouldn't see her after that for a while. And she dropped me off at school, and she said, "I'll pick you up after school at 3 o'clock. So when I got out of school, she wasn't there, but the lady that we had been staying with was there. And she told me that my mom went to court, and she got sentenced 2 years in prison.
I've been in the health, human services, caretaking profession as a drug and alcohol counselor for almost 20 years. I've never seen one single facility be able to address all the needs of the client at one place like Esplanade House.
The attempt is to provide a support system from day one with case managers, drug and alcohol counselors, an on-site child development center. So really, all of the needs of the homeless family, we try to give them a complete support system.
The Esplanade House is owned and managed by the Community Action Agency in partnership with the Esplanade House Children's Fund. We're pleased to continue the partnership that we've forged with the Children's Fund over these years, because in the current economic climate, which has been unprecedented, we're seeing so much more need now than we ever have before. And the cost of the care that we're providing to the homeless children traumatized by homelessness is more important now than ever before. So we're pleased that the Children's Fund has always been there. We could not keep the doors open without you.
In the beginning, Gary and I decided that we did not want to be fully dependent on government funding. It's just too risky. It changes all the time. It's here 1 year and gone the next year. So we established in 1992 a nonprofit corporation called the Esplanade House Children's Fund.
In simple terms, our goal was to develop a program that allowed the families to break the cycle of homelessness, to break the dependency and dysfunction that marked their families, and it was commonly generational. We didn't want a Band-Aid approach. We wanted a program that really worked. We didn't want to see the families back on the street in 6 months or a year. To do that, we looked at all the different components that affected these families and developed a comprehensive program in one location. As a result, we've been very proud of the fact that our success rate's been extremely high. Particularly, we're happy about the fact that we've allowed the children to regain their childhood.
We've come a long way since we purchased a 12-unit motel on the Esplanade 20 years ago. Today, we have a 60-unit apartment building, which includes a full child care center, playgrounds, donations room, administration building.
We've learned a lot over the years about homelessness. Most importantly, we recognize that homelessness is not a lack of affordable housing. Rather, homelessness is a culmination of a set of difficulties that families might face, such as drug abuse, alcohol abuse, poverty, lack of education, lack of marketable skills. All these things lead to a downward spiral for many of these families, ultimately ending up in hopelessness and then homelessness.
People walk in the door with a lifetime of addiction, of incarceration, of trauma, and I believe that we create a therapeutic atmosphere by which it gives them enough time to work on their issues.
And I remember standing out on that balcony and watching my daughter get in that CPS car and having no control over my life at all. And still not knowing what else to do. I didn't know, I didn't know how to stay clean that day, even though my daughter just got ripped out of my arms by protective services, you know? So what did I do? I went and got high, you know? That's all I knew how to do.
I gave my place up. You know, I said I was gonna stay with a friend, and then we stayed there for a little while, and then that didn't work out, so I'm bouncing around, and I have no money, and I have nowhere to go again with 2 kids, and then I meet this guy who introduced me, you know, to the needle, and then I got really strung out on slamming meth and taking pills and doing whatever, and we're living in scummy houses that were just basically condemned, you know, with other people.
The jails and the streets, and I lost my children to children's services, and I was on probation, and I had lost my rights as a parent, and I lost everybody's trust, and I was looking at not getting my children back. And somewhere in the middle of my relapse, my mom convinced me to apply to the Esplanade House because I was homeless and living on the streets, and she was taking care of my children. And during the time that I was sitting in jail, my application came up at the Esplanade House.
To be eligible for the Esplanade House program, you have to be homeless, and you need children living with you under the age of 18. You have to meet very low income eligibility requirements. And the most important thing is you really have to be capable and willing to change your life. Some of the families come from living in their cars, under bridges, in parks. They could come from sober living environment, and sometimes even prison. But when they get to the Esplanade House, they each have their own apartment, and they're beginning to develop the skills that are necessary to become self-sufficient. And that really is the overarching goal of our program.
And one of the best decisions I ever made in my life was the fact of putting the application in the Esplanade House. Because you know, I felt that I needed a second chance, and that was the only way that I could have ever been able to pull this off.
And the Esplanade House called and was like, "You're in, come down, you know, let's do an interview." And I was like so excited because I had a month left until they were either gonna adopt my kids out or, you know, I had to get a place. And so I came down and I was accepted into the Esplanade house, and that saved my life. You know, my kids came home 2 days after I was in, you know, and we had nothing. We had no beds, we had nothing, absolutely, we had nothing but some clothes.
The case managers at the Esplanade house said I could come if I got my children back, and my children's services worker said I could have my children back if I had some place to go. And the powers that be worked together, and I moved into the Esplanade house, and that weekend my children came for their first overnight visit. 2 weeks later, my children came home full time.
I utilized going into the office and talking to my case manager and just being like, this is how I feel. I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like there needs to be more, you know, and I would just like communicate with her.
One of the first things they're going to do is they're going to meet with someone like myself who is a case manager, and we address an initial assessment on what the family's needs are. What we do is we work off what's called a self-sufficiency matrix. And this matrix provides us with a gauge of whether or not the family is in crisis, or are they stable, or are they moving towards self-sufficiency.
Well, when I went into the Esplanade house, I didn't know what having a life was with my kids or my husband clean and sober. I didn't know how to parent, and I didn't know how to be a wife. I didn't know how to organize or clean. I didn't know how to set a schedule and stick to it.
You know, they like set up a schedule for you, and it's like, okay, we're gonna get up and we're gonna, at 9 a.m. there's a group, and then at 10 a.m. there's another group, and then you have a break, and then there's another group.
You know, they helped me. They set out a plan for me and showed me how to do it, and that was a big help for me, to have somebody there to do that for me, you know, because I just didn't know how.
You have to have structure and you have to have rules, and they teach you that and they show you that. They tell you when you need it.
We tell our clients, you can do this. If you really want to make these changes, you can make these things happen. Look to your kids for inspiration. Give them a chance and an opportunity for a better life than you had.
My biggest goal is to be a really good father. You know, my son is my life.
The parenting group is one of the groups that I just like totally admire. Janet Roush is amazing, you know. She taught me about that scared little girl that never got attention, needed that attention, and that my daughter could grow up that same way if I didn't give her that attention, that one-on-one.
Children are little sponges. They absorb what's going on around them. What they experience is what they do. So if it's abuse and neglect and trauma and hurt, that's who they become. Many of our adults in the Esplanade house experienced all of those things. You don't get rid of that easily. It takes years, and it takes much work to see yourself not as a loser, not as someone who deserves to be put down and to be mistreated in some way, but somebody who is valuable and can offer something to society. Our parents are working to change that in themselves, and they're working to make sure that their children don't experience that and come away with that as they did.
Well, my hope for my kids is that they don't go down the same path that I went down, and that they do something, you know, big and great with their life. Like, I want to see them graduate high school, you know, and I want to see them build a career for themselves and go to college and have a beautiful life.
In terms of the concepts that we're trying to help families, parents learn, one is the importance of education. And they can say that education is important, but if they're not reading to their children, if they don't know their kid's teacher, they're not living the importance of education.
The Child Development Center serves children ages 6 weeks to 6 years. We have 3 separate areas for them. We have an infant room that serves 6 weeks to 2 years old, and then they move into the toddler room, which is 2 to 3 years, and then they move into the preschool, which is 4 to 6. The activities that are offered to the children in the center include all the areas of development. They have time to move and do music during circle time. A lot of language activities, being able to write their letters, write their names, a lot of art activities. One of the most amazing programs that we have here is the Reading Advancement Program, and that's where we have volunteers from the community that come in and they read one-on-one with the kids. And it's so nice for the children to get that one-on-one attention. They draw with the kids. I've heard a lot of them singing songs with the kids, and the children love it.
You know, sometimes I think it's not always easy thinking about homelessness. It's uncomfortable not knowing what people have had to go through, endure the neglect, the abuse. You know, I trust and believe that the families here deserve another chance. But when I see the children, I know they deserve a second chance.
What I'm doing is that I'm overcoming my fears to work on myself, because only if I love myself can I love my son, you know, and give him what he truly needs.
The Esplanade House gives so many families, and I think most importantly, the children who sometimes get lost and fall through the cracks, an opportunity.
So one of the best things about being a case manager and being able to help these families is being able to inspire them to be successful and to feel that they're making achievements and they're addressing their goals and they're completing their tasks.
And I'm just so proud of myself because I put in the work, I exceeded what they wanted me to do, and I'm totally reaping the rewards from it. You know, so I know that if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I started off low self-esteem, not liking myself, not liking anyone else, you know, and I feel like this program totally gave me an opportunity instead of society just shipping me off in the middle of nowhere, feeling lost and having no help at all. I got to go to the Esplanade House where there's tons of help. Anytime you need something, you know, they're always there. And they push you, you know, they don't just let you sleep in till noon and do whatever you want, you know. They will literally come knock on your door and tell you to get out of bed and go to group, you know, and tell you to get up and do something with your life. Because as a person, I know that I'm more than that.
I've never been so happy in my whole life than I have been this year, you know. This is like, and it's, you know, I owe a lot to Esplanade House, you know. I know I definitely owe a lot to Beth because she helped me with a lot of the resources that I didn't know about. And I want to know about all resources.
And now, because of all the love and support and the gentle nudges and everything that was given to me from the Esplanade House, I am again a productive member of society and a participating parent, and I'm employed by Community Action Agency, and I get to give back to the same community that gave me so much.
So what else is really cool about the Esplanade House is they have 2 phases. When you get done with the first phase, you get to go to a graduation, and it gives the clients an opportunity to have some recognition from their case managers and their counselors and get some feedback on what they've done. You actually get like a plaque with a certificate in it. You know, it's just a ceremony to celebrate like all the hard work we've done.
One of the wonderful things about the Esplanade House is it's not you have 30 days to fix your life, which is generational in the problem areas. Families can live here long enough for the children to get the security and for the parents to get past the trauma and start moving forward with their lives and taking responsibility for themselves and for their kids. So being able to stay here up to 2 years is a necessity. To be somewhere 6 months is just another stop. But to be able to be here long enough to make the profound changes that have to happen for success, this program allows it. And it's one of the things that is terrific.
After seeing what my mom went through and how much she struggled because she dropped out of high school when she was my age, and now she wants to go back to school and hold 2 jobs. After seeing her do that, it makes me realize that it's now or never. I don't want to be 40-something years old and still having to go to school.
And essentially what recovery isn't not drinking and using, it's changing my life and learning how to live life differently so that my life works.
I don't have to I don't have to give my kids that life. I don't have to be that person. I can break the cycle, and I've been blessed enough to be given the opportunity to live at the Esplanade house, to have my kids in my home and have, you know, my 5-year-old and my newborn not subjected to an abusive and a neglectful, addicted mother. You know, I don't have to be that person. I can break the cycle and give them a better future for their lives.
I'm scared of losing my mom to drugs again. And I'm scared of losing my mom because of her health, because she's what she's done to her body. Because my mom's all I have. I don't have anybody else. And I depend on her 100%. And I had to grow up a lot, but I still want to be a kid really bad.
I know definitely that me and my son would not have had the hope that we have today. That Esplanade House has given us what I could have never achieved on my own. And I know that I owe a lot to the Esplanade House because I'm very proud to be there, and I work real hard to obey all the rules because of the fact that how much has been given to me. My life has been given back to me. This is my second chance, and I'm not gonna mess that up.
By supporting the Esplanade House, you give children an opportunity to grow up in a different environment, a loving, nurturing, caring environment, and by doing that, you make the world a better place.
It's not just for a good cause. It's more than that. It's for what some people live for, what they have to look forward to. The Esplanade House is hope to some people. And without it, there are many more like me.
Who told us we'd be rescued? What has changed and why should we be saved from nightmares? We're asking why this happens to us who have died to live. It's unfair. This is what it means to be held, how it feels when the sacred is torn from life and you survive. This is what it is to be loved and to know that the promise was when everything fell, we'd be held. This hand is bitterness, we want to taste it, let the hate